Welcome to Classic Value Investors and Microcap Explosions. This is Mariusz Konieczny. This is the second video in the interview video series about mobile home parks. And today with me, I have Adam McNeil. He's a broker, so we're going to get a perspective from a broker. Adam, thank you very much for joining me.
Hey, no problem. Glad to be here.
Adam, you guys mostly at Wisely Realty, you guys mostly operate in Indiana. That's my home state. Well, actually, that's where I live right now. And you guys are absolutely everywhere. So I just kind of wanted to get a perspective from you on the business of mobile home park investing. But before we do this, can you take a few moments and kind of like describe yourself? How did you get into the business?
Sure. So I worked for a family office in Denver for 10 years, and we did different real estate, private equity investments, and I was their asset manager. And we got into the mobile home parks kind of by accident. We bought some distressed loans, and they were actually here in Indiana. And so that was 2009. And so I've been in the park business as an owner operator for, I guess now 10, 11 years. And so back then, it was people still didn't really know about the parks. They still had the stigma. And now today that's kind of changed. But I've owned and operated parks in Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, and Kansas. And then I moved out here to Indiana 6 years ago. I own a couple communities out here. And then I started doing the brokerage with Mark, and it really works hand in hand, especially when we have new operators come in and purchase parks. We have the contacts, vendors, who they should be working with. They have questions. We meet them on site. So it's really been a good, worked out well with the clients, and that's kind of really helped us grow the business. And we primarily focus in Indiana and the surrounding states. So I think right now we've got Illinois, Michigan, and a deal in Ohio going as well.
Okay, so it's nice you're on the brokerage side, but you're also an owner operator. So, like, what do you like, or what attracted you to this business from the point of view of being an operator and owner?
So we did office, retail, and you really do rely on in those sectors. The broker you hire to lease those spaces. It's kind of make or break for your business. And one of the things we realized when we got into the manufactured housing, kind of the affordable living, if you provide a decent product, it doesn't have to be brand new, but even just, fixed up home, there's enough demand for the affordable housing. And so you can really dictate your occupancy if you're hands-on and you're aggressive. If you bring in and get houses ready, you can fill those up either by renting them out or selling them. That's how you drive the value in the parks.
Okay, so for somebody that wants to get into this business, how would you advise them to get a hold of mobile home parks? How would they go about acquiring them or finding them?
So there's a lot of podcasts now, boot camps, different information that 5+ years ago there really wasn't any information. There's a lot more information out there today than there was when I got into the business. That was kind of figured out as you go. And so looking on Crexy, LoopNet, Mobile Home Park Store is a good place to go to see different deals listed for sale. But I've talked to a number of guys that are either in the business or wanting to get in the business, and I tell them they got to get out and drive the parks. I said, you got to get out and go drive some of these properties. I said, you don't know what you're looking at when you're looking at a offering online. I said, you need to go actually drive some of the properties, even if they're not for sale, understand what you like and don't like, and then, underwrite some of these properties. Because I said, even if somebody sends you over a deal, you don't know if it's a good deal or a bad deal or if it fits what you're looking for, because all deals are different. You got public utilities, private utilities, metro areas that, everybody always calls in with the same criteria. They want city utilities, no park-owned homes within 5 miles of a Walmart, and not all the parks fit that. So there's opportunities if you're able to break out of the norm.
That's interesting that you said that, because you're right that there is much more education on the subject now that there was years ago. You see, my background is I used to be a real estate appraiser, and I remember appraising mobile home parks in the early mid 2000s, and there was no such information back then. But when you do take those courses, boot camps, or you listen to the podcast, the traditional view is exactly what you said: public utilities, big cities, no park-owned homes, um, and then if you do have them, sell them to the tenant or even give them away for free because you don't want to bother with the park-owned homes. But then when I was recently looking at opportunities, whether on LoopNet or the other website you mentioned, the reality is that I can't find any ones that don't have a lot of park-owned homes or a lot of vacancies, and it was kind of like a downer for me. What are your thoughts on that?
So I tell guys, if you're looking for opportunities to purchase a park that has no park-owned homes, I said there's very few parks in the Midwest in general that don't have some park-owned homes. You get down into Florida, Texas, Arizona, it's a different operating model down there, and it is more tenant-owned homes, and those are a little more upscale communities. Midwest is still very much affordable housing, and so there's a few parks. I think there's around 1,400 parks in Indiana. There's probably less than 50 that have hardly any park-owned homes. So the majority of them is. So I tell people, if you're getting into the park business, you need to embrace being in the home business as well. It's the only way to really add value is by bringing in houses and filling the sites. And I think sometimes guys read it, podcasts, get different information that they're just going to be in, the parking lot business. It can happen, but the reality is if you want to add value, you're going to have to bring in 5, 10 houses, get them occupied. And even if you sell them on contract, it's still your house. So the people move out, you're going to have to renovate the house and, do it again. So it has evolved. It's not the way it used to be 20 years ago.
So, from your experience as an owner, do you obviously have some park-owned homes that you rent? How does the math work out in terms of what you can collect, and maybe how much does it cost you to maintain it and repair it on average?
So that really varies. So you got certain operators that will do bare bone minimum rehabs. They'll just go in and, fix it up enough to get somebody to live in there. And so your repair costs are going to be higher when you don't go through and, do an adequate renovation. If you do an adequate renovation, you put somebody into the house, most of the time the issues that you have is, a leaky faucet or this or that. It's not big expenses. Your big items are going to be your hot water heaters, your central air units that, go out, or furnaces. And even if you got a house sold on contract and it's going to be $1,500, $2,000 to replace the furnace or whatever it is, most likely your resident doesn't have that, and you're going to have to step in. So the answer to your question, I mean, usually you can get $300 to $350 above lot rent on a used house, and maybe $400 to $500 above lot rent on a new house. And so it's, you kind of spread that out over your houses. But overall, if you've got better quality rental homes or homes you're selling on contract, your expenses, I usually will say, average 30% of what you're bringing in on the home side. And that's just kind of a round number. If the homes are in rougher shape, it'll be higher than that. But 30 to 40% would be a decent number to kind of model out.
So with the lot rent and then the rental of the home, you can get about 600 a month to rent them.
Yeah, and I would say that's kind of increased a little bit over the last year or two. I'd say 600 to 700 is a good round number to use on a used house here in the Midwest. New houses, you'll probably be 800 to 900 to 1,000, depending on the different metro you're in. So that's, for up here in the Midwest, that's kind of a good range.
And then when somebody acquires a mobile home park and there's some vacancies and you want to bring in those homes, how do you source those homes, whether they're used or new ones?
So one of the unique things is, so I actually have a dealer's license. So one of the things I offer to the clients I work with is I can order the new houses for them direct from the factory, because you got to have a dealer's license and be bonded in order to order new houses direct from the factory. So I've got probably 15 clients that I've sold parks to, that I've helped, order new houses and they get shipped to them. Your other option is used houses. It's been harder to find used homes. The prices have gone up, but there is some wholesalers out there. There's probably 2 or 3 here in Indiana that you could use, but it has gotten much tougher to find used houses. And the new homes, you're looking right now, you're out 6 to 8 months. The factories are so backlogged.
And tell me the difference between going through somebody like you that is a dealer purchasing a new home versus if they were to go and pay retail for that home without a dealer's license.
Well, when you're a retailer out there, their whole business model is to make money on the home sale. That's their income stream. I do it more as kind of a add-on service. So I just charge a flat minimum fee. So they're basically paying exactly. They're going to probably save 20-30% or more versus going retail.
Okay, but how, like you tell me, I'm going to bring you a home, and I know they're different, but are we talking about 30,000, 50,000 that they will pay through you versus how much would they pay if they were on their own?
Okay, so I can't give you exactly what a retailer would charge because I'm not sure on that. But a new home right now, I just placed a couple orders. You're looking between 30 to 40,000 for a new single wide right now. Double wide, you're going to be probably 50 to 60,000 is what a new one will range, and that's going to be your basic kind of home you would put into a community. It's not going to have all the bells and whistles. It'll have your basic needs.
Yeah, and the fact that everybody's backed up, I assume this is because it was caused by COVID. Like before COVID, it wasn't such a long wait time. Am I right?
Yeah, it used to be 6 to 8 weeks. So it's really gotten pushed. We've seen prices jump up 10-20% on materials. I get emails all the time on, the shortages. They're having to switch to a different material because they can't get this or that. So it's been tough on them as well.
Okay. Going back to a little bit about if someone wants to go out and find mobile home parks to purchase, again, when you listen to various podcasts or educational information, they tell you to don't use a broker, go directly to the owners. And so, of course, I'm asking you as a broker, like what kind of advice would you give them, or what kind of experience have some of the people had trying to find them on your own?
So I think when it comes to if you're looking to acquire a park, I think you need to use all avenues. And I'll say this, just in the last year, we've listed 4 deals because the owner called us and said, I'm tired and getting inundated by these guys contacting me. So owners are overwhelmed when people are going direct to them. And I get the calls as well. And I will say that it's not effective when, even they got third-party services calling them now. It's just a waste of time, but they don't know anything about the property. They're just seeing how many people they can dial in a day. And these owners get frustrated. And like I said, we've had 4 of them where 2 of them actually tried to sell it before on their own, put it under contract with the buyer, and then, the buyers just didn't work out. So it's not that you can't go direct, but you need to know a little bit about the property or do some homework before you call them if you want to have a productive conversation with the seller, because they're getting postcards and calls every day. And then I would say, working with brokers, know who's active in your area. And there's a lot of times, we've got a number of deals that never hit the market. We either got clients that have properties nearby, that we'll call up. But you got to show both either a broker or a seller that you're credible. because a lot of these guys are calling, and the first thing they want to know is, do you have seller financing? Most of these sellers don't want to do seller financing. They want to get cashed out, or they've got, different ideas. But that's what we get a lot of calls on from, guys wanting to get in the business. And they come into this delusion that they're going to buy a park that's, everything's perfect. There's no park-owned homes. There's vacant spots they can fill. It's under market rent. And I would say a lot of guys never end up pulling the trigger, because what they've been told or what they've read, they can't find when they start looking.
Okay. So another, obstacle, or what you learn why you shouldn't use brokers is, well, if you're new, they're not going to take you seriously. They're not going to take your phone call. So therefore you should go and find it on your own. How does a person become qualified and serious in your eyes that you would take them seriously?
So I can tell you, I've invited out and had at least a half dozen clients fly out here, and we spent the day and went and drove properties, and I showed them stuff that, hey, here's something I like, here's what I don't like. Some were listed parks, some weren't for sale. And let's see, I think half of them, we ended up getting a deal done. We found parks for them and got a deal done within the next year. And the one group now owns 3 parks. The other one has 2. I think the other ones, I think they just still got the one. So you got to you got to show you're for real. Let them know, hey, here's where my equity's coming from. Here's my background. Even if you don't have it, or, just be upfront. But, take the time and actually go out and visit somebody. That's where a lot of these owners, in-person meetings go a long ways.
Mm-hmm. And talking about this seller financing a little bit, because one of the arguments for seller financing is, oh, the owner is tired of running it, and if you offer them a seller financing, they don't have to pay the capital gains, and that's why you should ask.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. I will say this: a lot of sellers we do very few deals with seller financing. The only time we end up really doing seller financing is if the deal is not bankable, because the property's distressed, or there's an issue with it. Otherwise, we're not going to advise any of our clients to take less than what a bank would take down as a down payment. Why would they take down 10%, turn the property over to somebody? That's a big risk for them. So the only time we've really had seller financing deals is when the property's just not bankable because it's got low occupancy or there's something wrong with it. But a lot of our sellers are doing 1031 exchanges, and they're rolling into different, assets. Or we also have some different options that we've had our clients go, that they can go passive and still do an exchange and avoid the tax piece as well. So as much as people think the seller just wants to take a note, that's typically not the case. And it's just a lot of risk, especially if they're getting up there in their age, and a seller takes it over and they don't perform, and they got to take the property back in 3 or 4 years. That's usually not something they're looking to do.
Could you just, in plain terms, to somebody new, describe what 1031 exchange is?
Yeah, so a 1031 exchange is a like-for-like exchange. So you can sell a mobile home park, for example, and then go and purchase farmland or an apartment building or office or something that's comparable like-for-like. So you, in a nutshell, you have 45 days from when you close on the sale of your property to identify up to 3 properties or 2 times the sale amount. And then you have 180 days to close. And if you do that, you can defer all gains and roll them into the next purchase.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss about mobile home parks that maybe I didn't ask you?
Long term, the affordable housing sector is going to always stay in high demand. The industry's changed a lot in the last 5 years in particular. The amount of money chasing deals now, it's nothing like we've ever seen. 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, there was three separate 2 billion plus transactions of groups. So you're seeing a lot more consolidation in the sector. The larger operators are buying up in bulk, and you're seeing a lot more consolidation occur. The mom and pops are becoming fewer and fewer. You're seeing more parks being closed down or redeveloped than you're seeing parks being built.
Okay.
So there's less and less supply for the parks, and there's more and more demand. And we've seen cap rates really get compressed. When I got into it, 10 plus years ago, cap rates were 10, 12 plus percent. Then it kind of came down to where, you're maybe 9, 10, 8, 9. Now we've got deals, you're talking 5, 6, 7% cap rate to 8. So it's really gotten compressed because of the demand, but also with interest rates being as low.
But with the cap rates, it's kind of hard sometimes to look at it, especially when there's value to be added or some vacancy. I mean, cap rates are nice when something is stabilized, but just cap rate on its own could be misleading. Am I right?
It's part of the picture. So I would say yes, it's good to understand what the property's currently producing, but I also think it's good for guys to model out what it can be in 2 or 3 years. But you also have to factor in the cost to bring in the houses and get them set up and get them occupied.
Yeah.
So that, if you're averaging 40,000 per new house, if you were to bring in 25 houses, that's another $1 million. So you got to plan for how you're going to pay for those houses in order to execute on the plan.
And usually, parks that bring those houses in, do they usually finance it through the manufacturer, or do they have to come up all cash?
So there's some different programs out there. 21st Mortgage is your largest lender out there, and that's who I see a lot of clients go through because they are set up for it. But you can also get something set up with your local lender. So there's different options, but 21st, their cash program is probably the most widely used out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't have any more questions. Adam, if people want to reach out to you, ask you questions, engage you in your services, how could they get a hold of you?
So wiselycr.com is our website. We have all of our listings on there. You can call us. We got our phone numbers on there as well. And so we've helped some of these people that are entering the space through the due diligence process. There's a lot of questions if you haven't been in the park space, but I would say anybody that's thinking of getting into it, I encourage them to get out and go drive some of these parks. It doesn't matter if they're for sale. Go drive through them. Go in and ask the salesperson to show you a house. Go tour a mobile home. There's been a number of times where I've had clients show up. They've never stepped foot in a mobile home before, and they don't know what to expect. They step in a new house, and they're blown away at how nice they are. They step in an older home, they're like, oh my goodness, what do I got to do here to fix this up? So there's a lot for hands-on going out there and seeing the property, and I think it'll make somebody that's newer to the space or wanting to get into it more comfortable to make a decision.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.